Alright class, basically the goal of this video is to start looking to the south and some of the more important winter stars. We're kind of actually past winter now, we're into spring, but we should still be able to see some of these. We'll just have to look a little bit earlier in the night than we would have had we done this a couple months ago. So as I've always talked about, okay, your constellation Orion is this guy right here. Very bright constellation. If we look to a different slide here. Here's more of an actual view of Orion, where you see Orion's belt here, and you see Betelgeuse, this bright red star. Rigel is the next bright star. This is actually brighter right now because Betelgeuse is so dim. You have Orion's belt down here in Orion's sword. This is a nebula. This is the famous Orion Nebula, that little smudgy spot right there. And if you've ever looked out in the winter sky, kind of towards the south, if you look around 9 o'clock or so around this time of year, you're going to kind of find Orion in the kind of southwestern sky. Okay, so Orion's belt, if you follow Orion's belt down, this super bright guy, brightest star in the nighttime sky, that's Sirius. Betelgeuse is this red guy, kind of in the upper left of Orion. Rigel is in the lower right. And if you follow these over, this is a new star that we probably haven't mentioned before. This is Procyon. Kind of sounds like a name of a robot or something, Procyon. But this is one of the two kind of primary stars in Canis Minor. It's a little dog. If you look at instead this view of Orion, you have Orion, Orion's belts. Follow these down. Sirius, that's the nose of the dog. Again, Sirius is known as the dog star. Canis Major, Canis like canine, Major big, so the big dog. So Orion is the hunter. Some say this is a shield and a sword. Others, this is drawing back the string of his bow. And then above that is Canis Minor. Canis Major, Canis Minor. Big dog, little dog. Orion is the hunter. He's got his 2 hunting dogs following him that way. Okay, so if we use Orion's belt, which you cannot miss, find Sirius. Again, Sirius is super bright. You can't miss it in general. And again, that is named the dog star because it's the bright star and the dog, the big dog. And as I probably mentioned to you before, we ever hear the term the dog days of summer, that actually comes from Sirius, the dog star, because the dog days of summer is kind of like the late months of summer where it's super hot. And in Roman times, they thought that it was so hot during that time because the sun and Sirius are both out at that time. They kind of are with each other in the sky, and so they thought it was so hot because of the added heat from this bright star Sirius. That's what the dog days of summer actually mean. As we've heard of like lazy dogs and we're just kind of dragging around. It has everything to do with this star being out during that time in the summer. So you have Orion's belt. Orion. This shape is a super easily recognizable shape. This star, this star, this star, this star, as well as Orion's belt are all super noticeable. Betelgeuse, we've been talking about him all year. Rigel is the other bright star here. Then Orion's belt points down to Sirius. Sirius in the dog. Canis Major, big dog. And then you also have a little dog. Kind of above that is Procyon, is the bright star in Canis Minor. If we look at it from this view, Orion's belts, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Sirius, and here is Procyon. So now let's instead try to look at this in starry night here. Okay, we're going to get a view of full sky. Okay, so we've got Orion here. All right, now maybe let's just put on some of their drawings is you can more easily see. So here is Orion, Betelgeuse, there's Orion's belt. Okay, this is maybe around 10 o'clock tonight. Let's take this back a little bit earlier, so that Orion is a little bit higher in the sky. But again, this is a large constellation. If it's clear out, you cannot miss Orion if you're kind of looking to the southwest. So anytime this week, you have a clear night around 9. Anytime from it gets dark to 10, 11 o'clock when Orion sets, you should be able to see this. Okay, so Orion, certainly try to recognize that shape. Okay, let's get rid of those for a second. Okay, so you see that shape here. Okay, here's Orion's belts, Betelgeuse, Rigel are the two bright stars in Orion, the two brightest stars. Orion's belt and Orion's sword. Once you get in here is the Orion Nebula in that area. Follow that down, you get to Sirius. Sirius, the bright star in Canis Major. Above Sirius, you're looking for, there's these two stars, is really the main part of Canis Minor, but this is Procyon. Procyon is another star we want to know, okay? Put the drawings back up for a second. Here's Orion, Betelgeuse, Orion's belts, Rigel. Follow Orion's belt down to get to the head of the dog. Upwards, the next bright star, we're looking for Procyon up there. Okay, so you've got Orion the hunter. You even kind of see his shield and his sword, or his bow, and him drawing back the string of that bow. And behind him are two hunter dogs, Canis Major and Canis Minor. All right. So, I have a few new constellations, a few new stars. Let's pull this back just a little bit so we get a big chunk of the sky. Okay, so follow that down, a little bit bigger. Follow Orion's belt down, Sirius, Procyon, Canis Major, Canis Minor. Now some other things from Orion. So Orion, behind him, has the two hunting dogs. In front of him is the bull. Okay, so what kind of shape did the horns of a bull make? Kind of make a little bit of a V shape. This shape here is the horns of a bull. Okay, so view constellation labels. Just put those on there, so help us recognize those. So this shape here, that's the horns of the bull, Taurus. Taurus is the bull, Taureau, right? The bright star there, this is the red eye of the bull. Aldebaran is a really bright star. That's another bright star to know. Aldebaran is the bright star in the constellation Taurus. So you've got Orion the hunter. A hunter has two hunting dogs, Canis Major, Canis Minor. They are hunting the bull. Okay, now one way to think about it is Orion, if you remember the one story that was told to you in the one Cosmos episode with Neil deGrasse Tyson, they always talked about the seven sisters, the Pleiades. This little cluster right here, I'll zoom in on that really quick. See what I'm zeroing in on? That is the seven sisters. There's more than actually seven stars there, but that is the famous star cluster, the Pleiades, otherwise known as the seven sisters. That's right there. It's actually in the constellation Taurus if you look at its boundaries, but Orion, the kind of overzealous hunter, wants to get to the seven sisters. He really likes those ladies, but he's got to get through the bull to get to the seven sisters, the Pleiades. Okay, and again, I can't get that label to show up, but that little star cluster just past Aldebaran here, that is Pleiades. Now some of you might be saying, what's that really bright thing? This is Venus, okay? So this is a planet that's not always going to be there. So we can kind of ignore that view, maybe get rid of our planets really quick. Since we're not studying planets right now, make that disappear. So we're not distracted by that really bright thing. But you can see how bright Venus is, right? Brighter than Sirius over here. All right? So, Orion's belts, Rigel, Betelgeuse, Sirius, Procyon, Canis Major, Canis Minor. Two hunting dogs, big dog, little dog, behind the hunter, Orion. Orion's trying to get through the bull, Taurus, to get to the seven sisters, the Pleiades. The Pleiades is not a constellation, it's just a star cluster, also known as the seven sisters. Little lovely ladies over here. The hunter Orion wants to get to him, but he's got to get through the bull to get through the seven sisters. Remember, the bright star, the bright red star in Taurus is Aldebaran. I always pronounced it Aldebaran, but that was wrong. Aldebaran sounds like a planet from one of the Star Wars movies or something. Okay, And I'll show you some graphics where you see all this on one page, okay? But I'm just giving you some different ways to remember that. So you can follow Orion's belt the other way and kind of get to Aldebaran, as well as to the Pleiades, okay? So I'm only focusing on things we need to know right now. So some of these other constellations you're seeing up right here, unless I mention them, those aren't ones that we need to know, okay? So if you follow Orion's shoulders back up this way, if it's hard to find Procyon, you can follow Orion's shoulders back this way to get to Procyon. Just like you can follow Orion's belt down to get to Sirius, and you can follow it up to get to Aldebaran, and then continue on to the Pleiades. Okay, now here you have Taurus. Above Taurus, you have this other constellation, Auriga. And in that constellation is a really bright star, Capella, one of the brightest stars in the sky. I don't have a funny story about Auriga or Capella, but the way I do remember Capella is Auriga starts with an A, Capella like an a cappella group. A cappella, like A-C-A-P-E-L-L-A. You know, like a singing group? I always think of that. Capella, a cappella. Auriga, a cappella, is the bright star above Taurus. So follow Taurus up, that gets you to Capella in this big weird shape here. So that's the constellation that goes with that star. Okay, so there's another one. Capella, Auriga, Taurus, Aldebaran. Okay, now that's almost everything on this slide except for one more. Okay, if you follow Orion up, okay, you can get to Orion up here, and you have this big upside down U shape. I always think of it kind of looks like a 1950s ladies hairdo with the hair flared out to the sides. Or think of it for those of you guys who might be familiar with this. Think about what a Lululemon logo is. There's your Lululemon logo, fancy yoga pants store for any of you guys who like, you know, $120 pair of yoga pants, leggings. That's the sort of go-to for that. So Lululemon, kind of this like old-timey ladies hairdo. I think of Gemini kind of looking like that. So here is the Gemini constellation. Now, Gemini is always commonly associated with the twins, you know, the Gemini twins. Okay, and here you don't really see those twins quite as much. But if you look at them in a picture more like this loads here. You see the two stick figures and the two bright stars on the view we have in Starry Night. That's the top of it, okay, and it kind of flares out like that. But if we pop back over to Starry Night here, you see there's two stick figures again. It's just a little bit different drawing. But your two twin stars, okay. Gemini is always associated with the twins. I was probably not until I was 30 years old that I ever made this connection, because I'm not super bright sometimes, but the Gemini roller coaster at Cedar Point, what is unique about that is that it's two roller coasters going simultaneously. They are twin roller coasters. That's why it's called the Gemini. Gemini, the zodiac sign, is the two twins. These are the two heads of the two twins that are sitting here, and you could draw a little stick figure going on. It's not super obvious. But the two primary stars are Pollux and Castor. Okay? Pollux and Castor. All right? Are the two Gemini twins. Now, kind of a dumb story for that. If you guys may be familiar with terrible 90s action movies. Well, let me find you a picture. This movie, there was all kinds of cheesy 90s movies made, but there was a movie called Face Off that had John Travolta and Nicolas Cage in it. Basically, the premise behind this movie was you had like a FBI agent played by one guy and a career criminal played by the other guy. And long story short, they decide to steal each other's faces. It's super complicated and a terrible plot line, but that's why it's called Face Off. Is that originally Nicolas Cage is the bad guy, but then he steals John Travolta's face, and he becomes the bad guy. And then the same thing happens the other way. So the two actors play two totally different roles in the whole movie. Anyways, it was an entertaining movie. I can show you a smidge of the trailer here. Don't want to keep you entertained, but don't want to eat up the entire time plot. But this is going somewhere, so just bear with me here.
I've been chasing this guy ever since I joined the force. He has no conscience, and he shows no remorse. He's the mastermind behind numerous.
There you go. It's all the action sequences, just putting overdone 90s action movie. This two guys are chasing that one. And as you probably all know, any movie with Nicolas Cage is sure to be amazing. But I never even thought about this, but the bad guy, who was originally played by one actor, who was originally Nicolas Cage, was the guy that looks like Nicolas Cage, I guess you would say, is the bad guy. His name was Castor Troy, and he had a brother in the movie whose name was Pollux. And you watch the movie, you're like, oh, those are funny names, and you don't really think about it. Wow, there is a astronomical reference there. They named themselves after the two Gemini twins. I don't even think they were supposed to be twins in the movie. They were just supposed to be brothers. But Pollux and Castor are the two bad guys' names in the movie. And until I started studying astronomy more deeply, I never even thought of it. But me having seen this movie decades ago, I remember that. And I remember the guy's Castor Troy, because it kind of sounds like a bad guy's name. God, that's a cool name, Castor Troy. But the name is derived from the two twin stars in Gemini for that movie. So a terrible, terrible action movie with Nicolas Cage, with car chases and explosions left to right. You wouldn't think that they would be that deep, but what? Guess what? They surprise you from now and then. So just a little bit extra story to kind of help you remember these two names, Pollux and Castor. Okay, so that is pretty much almost everything off of here. Okay, so one more time going through it all. I know this is kind of a little bit monotonous to sit there and watch, but I'm trying to be quick, and you can watch this again at your leisure. Orion. Here, notice that shape. We have Betelgeuse, Rigel. Follow Orion's belt down to find Sirius. It's the brightest star in the sky. Sirius, otherwise known as the dog star, in the big dog, Canis Major. Go above Canis Major, you get the little dog, Canis Minor, and the bright star in that constellation is Procyon. Pronounced weird, and even on these things you can get pronunciation. Alright, I guess that's not going to work, but they will pronounce
Procyon.
Oh, there you go. And that's how I remember how to
Procyon.
How to pronounce a lot of these things. Procyon is in the little dog. Okay? And you can follow Orion's shoulders up to get to Procyon. Go in the other direction, you can follow Orion's belt the other way to get to Aldebaran, which again, kind of a weird thing to pronounce. So you can hit pronounce
Aldebaran.
Aldebaran, not Aldebaran. I don't really care how you pronounce it in your minds, but that is the correct pronunciation.
Aldebaran
is in the constellation Taurus, so Orion's got his two hunter dogs. He's got to get to the bull. He's got to get through the bull to get to those 7 ladies, the 7 sisters, otherwise known as the Pleiades, which is this fun little star cluster here. Above Taurus, you have a really bright star, Capella. Capella for Auriga. So a cappella group, like a singing group. Singing group with no instruments. what was that movie with the acapella groups that was good for a few years back? I don't remember what it was, but I, for some reason, watched all three, and they were terrible, but they were good enough for me to watch. Anyways, acapella group, A for Auriga, Capella is the bright star up there. Kind of directly above Orion's arm, you follow Betelgeuse up. You've got Gemini, there's your Lululemon logo pattern, and you've got the two twin stars, Pollux and Castor. Which one's which? The only way I really remember that is by doing, well, the reverse alphabetical order. Pollux, then Castor, left to right. So you're reading them in reverse alphabetical order. Pollux, then Castor. Pollux, then Castor. Like the two bad guys in the terrible Nicolas Cage movie, Face Off. Okay? And that's about that. But one more thing is you kind of remember that, when we look at Starry Night here, this is kind of a a fisheye view of the sky. This stuff is all going to be bigger. Orion, looks like it's such a small thing in your field of view, but it's actually really, really big. It's like your palm, not even the size that your palm takes off when it's held a little bit less than an arm's length away. So to kind of emphasize that point is that this is so much of the sky that we're actually starting to connect to part of the northern sky. If you follow Orion's shoulders up and you go past Procyon and keep going, you notice this blue star. And you may remember this blue star from our northern stars. We started talking about stars we can find off the Big Dipper, and you get to Regulus. And all of a sudden, there's Leo and Regulus. And you can actually use Orion to find Regulus, or you can use the Big Dipper to find Regulus. So all of a sudden, there's the Big Dipper. And if I zoom out enough, I can probably get the Big Dipper and, well, maybe not quite. Nope, a little bit. Orion. So you see Orion over here, and you see the Big Dipper over here. You can follow Orion's two shoulders all the way over. It's a little bit kind of a weird angle at this point to find Regulus, or these two pointer stars there. So again, this is such a big section of the sky, it's kind of all connected. And if you look at where the Big Dipper is, and where Canis Minor is, and Canis Major is, and Orion, they're really not that far away from each other in the sky, maybe about 90 degrees between each other. But whereas the Big Dipper is always up, Orion the Hunter and these stars are not. In the summer months, you don't get to see Orion at all. It is, Orion is right on the ecliptic, so the sun, or it's right on the celestial equator, I should say. And while it itself is not a zodiac constellation, it is very close to zodiac constellations, as you can see here: Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, and so forth. It is very close to those. So on the opposite end of the year, in the summer, particularly in the late summer months, you're not going to be able to see Orion really much at all, because the sun is very, very close to it in the sky in those times of year. Okay. So I'm going to put this all in some slides for you. I just wanted to go through all this, watch this once or twice, try to learn. I know it's tricky to do it this way, but I'm going to give you some graphics. If we take these pictures off of here, maybe try to do this one more time without all those pictures. So constellations, get rid of these labels, get rid of that. So here's we're just looking at some stars. Start with Orion and move from there. And again, we're only pointing at the bright stars, so you just got to think about what are the bright stars that stand out to you. So here's Orion, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Orion's belt. Follow that down. Sirius in Canis Major. Kind of right above that, go from the big dog to the little dog, Canis Minor, and that funny word, Procyon. If we follow that the other way, that kind of gets us to this V shape that we see here. Those are the horns of the bull Taurus. And we get to Aldebaran. Okay, oops. And Aldebaran, that's the eye of the bull. Its horns are here. So you've got Orion, it's two hunting dogs. He's got to get through the bull to get to the seven ladies, the Pleiades, the seven sisters. Above Taurus is that constellation Auriga, which you see which star stands out to you up here. You kind of see that weird, octagon or hexagon shape. that's making this guy here is the bright one. There's your Capella, A Capella. This is the constellation Auriga with Capella. Then, last couple here, you have Orion kind of above that. Here you see that Lululemon lady's hairdo shape, and you got the two twins up here. Twin, 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 twin. Pollux and Castor. Reverse alphabetical order. Pollux, then Castor. And the last thing is then try to connect the two parts of the sky, follow Orion's shoulders back up all the way through Procyon until you get to this blue star and you find Regulus. Regulus, the bright regal star, the regal lion, Leo. Okay? Do your best you can. Again, I'll give you some other utilities, but I want you guys to watch this. I'm going to put this, you'll be watching this in Edpuzzle form, so you'll be able to look at all that and kind of answer and follow along as you go along. And that is it for right now.